Many of you are taken in a great deal. Do what you're doing so well now. Source. Look to Mahatma's source, the source star, and begin to look at the great one, Sandal. Absolutely essential for our alignment. And draw that aqua blue line, if you will, from source as a group, as individual, as one, for this is what we are. Breathe very deeply, please. I have no idea where we're going with the DNA and everything else that we'll talk about today, but it'll be exciting. Surely you can oxygenate. Many of you are taken in a great deal. Do what you're doing so well now. Source. Look to Mahatma's source, the source star, and begin to look at the great one, Sandalphon, in the earth. The Sandalphon is absolutely essential for our alignment, and draw that aqua blue line, if you will, from source as a group, as individual, as one, for this is what we are. Breathe very deeply, please. I have no idea where we're going with the DNA and everything else that we'll talk about today, but it'll be exciting. Surely you can oxygenate. Breathe right throughout your whole system and release all that which isn't in alignment, please. Breathing is such an integral part of unifying all parts, all aspects of self. It's something you need to remind yourself of, for we tend to focus so intently that we forget to breathe. I've been asked a couple of questions. One I didn't respond to when I mentioned there's a lovely lady here, I think she's from Florida, and she said she had just talked to Solara, and Solara made no mention that she had done a 360-degree turn on her view of everybody being angels. And this is from a recent book of hers called The Starry Messenger. So for this delightful lady, I'll read what she says. A profusion of people began channeling everything from their own higher selves to discarnate entities, dolphins, divas, space commanders, and ascended masters. Suddenly there was a lot of new teachings, processes, and information to assimilate. Many of us had not yet honed our skills of discernment. Remember that word again, discernment? In our great excitement at awakening, and we welcomed everything with enthusiastic openness, forgetting to run through our own individual truth filters. And this is what you're going to be compelled to do more and more and more, as that which we refer to as negativity takes hold and will wish to administer their systems, which are now overly dominant on this planet and must be raised above. Yes, we belong to the Ashtar Command, the White Brotherhood, and Michael's legions. I hope we still do. We were also angels, incarnate unicorns, space aliens, goddesses, shamans, and who knows what else. It was starting to get confusing. So this wonderful being is stating categorically that she's had to make a 360-degree turn. Oh, there you are, sweetheart. And to respond, this is in her book. And it takes great courage to realize, as you all know, that if you're a GEO of a major company and you have to make a 360-degree turn, generally the ego steps in and says, no, you can't do that. Fire a vice president. So there are many, many shifts. She talks about the 1111 that isn't an 1111. This very articulate lady, whom I haven't always agreed with. Somebody had sent her one of my books very early on, so this she had to look at. This, she writes so beautifully. She's an exquisite writer and energy. But she also recognizes with great distress that the 1111 that so many are trying to capitalize on now has nothing to do with 1111. I saw brochures in Switzerland, both from France, England, and Germany, that have nothing to do with 1111. So be very, very careful. 1111, the 1212, the 1111 was the opening of the Mahatma on June 1488, which paralleled that great opening. The 1111 was simply and most profoundly your Sanat Kumara integrating and embodying for the first time ever on this planet its source, your God source, the source that you are all working with now and connected to as the I Am. It's a greater I Am. Remember, it's not the I Am that Dwal and Germain and others only referred to that which they didn't understand. Remember in Dwal's writings, that which we don't speak of. Because again, the ring passeth not, so you get a lot of information, valid as it may be, that is very, very limiting, often from the astrals. So there's a lot of distortion in what we listen to now. And it may be a time that we simply reawaken and use our own seeds of consciousness, our own knowingness, and go into this cosmic room that we're building so admirably. And I'll repeat what I said yesterday, I meaning the greater I, the I Am. That all of you, within a very short time, once we get these 12 pearls organized, these 12 strands, will be absolute receivers of all universal information, and you will get it through your own experience. It'll be slightly different with each of you, but not at great variance one with the other. It will be the basis that will be consistent with what I teach and what others are going to teach. And all of you gentle ones at one time or another will be the most highly sought after as teachers. So I suspect that there will be postgraduate work done, post-mastery work done, and now however you see yourself fitting into that particular teaching. I have not looked at it yet. I know I go to the Cayman Islands and I know there's going to be a school, but as a now in difference, not an urinal. It's very early. That I would imagine that over top, it's a vast area. I can remember Janet McClure, who was a very good channel, going to Aruba, thinking that that was the absolute opposite from an energy point of view from Shambhala. And if you look at it closely enough, Aruba would be absolute opposite in terms of energy. But it's a vast field, it's a vast area, and my best information through an energy whose truths correspond with mine is that you have the feminine principle of existence, the opposite of the dynamic Shambhala. Can you visualize that, Shambhala? And it's very dynamic. How many women were on that hierarchy? Not too many. And at the opposite end of that, the feminine principle of existence is anchored now over the area that includes the Cayman Islands. So that's one of the reasons I'll be going there. The energy will be it's very fine. It's not contaminated, except for some laundry, some money, I think, and whatever else you hear about it. But it has not made an impact on it from an energy point of view. So there will be various places on Earth that will be centers, real centers as we go into this new age, hotspots, spots that we learn to become the teacher. About the time we don't need the teacher. There's strange ironies. When you're all being fed and you're open to the information coming in now through the recoding of your body, the coding that a few of you are starting to experience, the coding that Brian did experience profoundly, and they are all geometric in form, although the right side of my body was mostly dots and dashes, and I don't understand it, I wouldn't know how to interpret it. But it had a profound effect and a very weakening effect for a time. But once you know what it is, you don't need to run to your doctor and say, "Doctor, let me tell you what happened." One night I was taken away, the room went light, and I visually was raised up. And when I came back, the whole right side of my body was going dot, dashes, dot, dash, in a beautiful, beautiful aqua blue color. Well, your finite practitioner isn't prepared to deal with these lunatics. So it's not something that we can explain sometimes even among ourselves. I alert you to these changes because they're very, very real. I alert you to the bedevilment, the noxious, the objectionable forms of fear. And you will be hit with every kind of fear as your structures, particularly your church, the government has lied to you for so long now that I don't know how they get around to establishing that they don't govern. It's a difficult one. Although they're giving you glimpses of aliens and spacecraft and preparation for landings that will undoubtedly happen in all your lives. There's no reason they shouldn't. I hope they're not hostile. We don't need hostility. It's why groups magnified by the 160th power when we get into the fifth dimension that will eradicate all darkness. This is what you are not understanding, because the personal self sees itself as so insular, so impoverished, so tiny, so weakened by giving its power away, that one day it wakes up and says, I'm getting some of this energy. What do I do with it? I see things as they are, without distortion, without manipulation, and without the advertising of the subliminal manipulation of my psyche, of my body, of my mind. All of us are subjected to this every day, every time we look at television. And the subliminal is horrific. It's supposed to be outlawed, but everywhere I look on your television and in Europe, I see subliminal advertising. And it's sleazy. And we're all affected by it. So when you get up in the morning, realize that you are the I am. Totally, irrevocably. And know that what I speak of this morning will happen to one and all of you. You're not in this room for any other reason, no matter how impoverished, powerless, and isolated and lonely in many cases all of you are. Confused, many. The shifts are very, very rapid. And I would not have believed this until I realized that there's so many things that have happened the last few months, aside from the visit to the doctor and trying to describe my, can you imagine? The greatest shock I've had is looking at your 24 hours in Revelation. And this happens with all structures who feel that they have achieved the ultimate. That happened with your planetary hierarchy that Dwell writes about, that Germain wrote about, that the Bible writes less than lucidly about. These are very, very limiting views of people who have, quote, mastered, unquote. Mastery is a very, very short step. There isn't one of you in this room who will not have mastered unless you totally shut it out of the realm of possibility. It's not possible with fission, with the atom, having released the soul, which is equivalent to what you have called forever the fifth initiation. It's simply not possible in this day and age. The vibratory rate is already beyond what was called the fifth initiation. That's why you see so much trauma the body cannot handle. There really is nobody to blame. You have so very, very much violence. And I understand you now have proclaimed 13 assault weapons, so the American Rifle Association must be very jubilant. Because that's really what everybody needs, is an additional 13 assault weapons to get out in the street with. So yeah, our rather moronic decisions. There are Canadians here. I listened to a man on television, national network, telling millions of you Americans, you know, the Canadian health system doesn't work. Every day of their lives, those 1.5 million Canadians lining up for medical care. There's Canadians here. I've never lined up. I have a choice of my own doctor. You've been sold a bill of goods. You will never get universal coverage. You have 11 or 12,000 insurance companies that are all going broke. And every time another disease comes on that paralyzes the purse, it's eliminated. We've got the best health care in the world, and don't let nobody tell you we don't. Well, it's absolute bullshit. You pay more money for less than any other country in the developed world. And it's filthy with its corruptness. But there was no way when you've got this, is his name Best, George somebody, anyway, who is a very, very conservative gentleman. I have no objection to conservatism as long as they tell the truth. And I haven't met one that tells the truth of late. This goes all the way through to the metaphysical approach, to the approach of the I Am, and the hysteria near the end of the century when the Catholic Church realizes it's finished, the props are pulled, when your right-wing, your neo-fascist church, the born-again, realizes that they cannot hide behind Scripture any longer. You cannot tell these lies night after night after these vulgar displays of mental manipulation and healing. Then you will have a battle. And it'll be a battle royal, gentlemen, and prepare yourselves for it. Because they are not going to go down easily, because it's a multi-billion-dollar business. All predicated on fear. That little white sheep. Well, your grandfather's not baptized. If he's baptized, you'd have to be an absolute lunatic to buy into this scenario. And yet from time to time, even those among us who founded the teachings that were so unalterably distorted, the gentle one, Jesus, is not very happy. This has nothing to do with what we brought in. Absolutely nothing. So be strong. Do not try to teach where you can't teach. Simply become. Your energy will be very, very much felt, more so than you could ever believe. This wondrous you, and particularly now, for the levels of hope are very much heightened. Because what I see now, I can see for the first time in this life the power of the few. And the power is magnificent. You don't need to parade yourself. You don't need to get on a soapbox. The energy that's being infused now for the goodly company has no equal. Never has had an equal on this planet. And it's a hurry-up offense. So often when you talk to or talk with somebody who's channeling a discarnate being, really wonder where that energy is coming from. So often of late, it's coming from the astrals. Ask, because this is what you have to raise above. Darkness works very much better on this planet than light does, always has. But with the 3 lower astral levels being raised now, and those beings going somewhere else, the most concerted effort in the history of this universe is with this planet. We have a population of 5.7 billion residents with bodies. Many of them don't know why they're here. 2/3 are hungry. None of these situations should be with us now. They're with all of the technology, with all. The cream must rise to the top, is the theory of the elitists. And it's the elitists, or the cabal, or the trilateralists, however you view the beings that control you and have controlled you for the last 250 million years. So you build what we are building now with light. And that light does not have to be broadcast. You don't need to say to anyone, yes, but I'm doing my ascension. My dear me, only Jesus ascended. Things are changing, and they're changing very rapidly. And with some of the work you did yesterday, particularly the first day when I saw the gold curtain, these are samples of the appreciation, the great appreciation that these are not hierarchies. There are no hierarchies. They are facilitators. There's no one in creation greater than you. For those that can see it, layer after layer after layer of beings touched into this energy yesterday afternoon. In absolute hope and trust, great love. Could some of you see this? There, as quickly as they could come in, they were coming in and then leaving, coming in and then leaving. First day there was a more solid grouping. This planet is so important. The universe cannot evolve until we get this planet straightened away. It's the rotten apple in the barrel. And everything coexists in creation, so that if you have, I don't like the word bottlenecking, but I don't know of a better word. If you have 5.7 billion, I total it as 7 billion, although some of them are being transferred from the lower levels to the Pleiades. And they keep going around and around and around on this endless wheel, because the sensuous self, the emotional self, finds the kind of stimulation that eradicates elevation. You become stuck. And that's what humankind has done. The planet is beautiful, but how does beauty work when the density is like walking in molasses? I mean, the most beautiful scenes are taken away from. The most beautiful planet, as far as the plant kingdom is concerned, of the trillions of planets in this cosmic day, is this little planet. It was designed to be a paradise. And it will, many of you will live much longer than you had intended. Some of you would wish to get out of here a little early. Well, you'll have to talk to your souls about that, but I think you better talk if you planned on going a little earlier. It's on so few shoulders, this great responsibility. And if there's 84,000 carrying the light, the electromagnetics to hold this earth together are only 84,000. The symbolic 144,000. There are more carrying light. There are millions. And Brian, the personality, finds it very difficult to believe that you're going to be reaching millions. But I know how contagious light is. Everything is on our terms now. Darkness has no existence. It's simply an absence of light. And with the preponderance of great light, and now the microtron, and now for all of this universe, the feminine principle of existence, as I say, it was a great shock to find that the elders, our leaders in the Bible, one step up from Jesus, one step up from Moses, the ring passeth not. They cannot see beyond their level of consciousness. This is a fact in life. It's a fact throughout creation. So when they're asked, are they God? They say, well, not quite, but you could call Jesus God. Or you could call him Jehovah. But then all of you are God. Why not say that the first time? Not quite. The irrevocable, irreversible commitment that one has with their God source is the only connection that man needs now. Sadat Kamara made the connection on June 14, 1988. And from that time till now, the hastening of this age has magnified to the point where we will save not only the earth, begin to shift the consciousness from this more sensual density into light. The Alteans came to this planet and founded Atlantis. They became so absorbed with sexuality, and they were so, nothing in our finite science today could begin to compare with the science of Atlantis. So if you have a vain man who went to school and became a physicist, and you've heard them often on your networking and in your literature, that this is the highest scientific community that has ever lived anywhere, know that this is not so. They could say it is the lowest. The Alteans could do anything, including transplant the brain. Teleportation wasn't a problem. Moving big stones, as in the temples, was not a problem. But the Newtonian physicists would have us with hundreds of thousands of slaves carrying rocks that if you look at, it couldn't have been done. It simply could not have been done. So they cannot give achievement, or we cannot give achievement to science beyond our very limited findings. And it'll be shocking the next few years for the scientific community to find that ascension, or the disappearance of the body, or the creation of the light body, or teleportation. All of these things will be known. That spacecraft, which our scientific community knows very well exist, and have known, God, Ezekiel spoke of them. He wasn't a scientist, though. But certainly since the 1920s, we've known all about these. So you'll see this happening in the next few years. We just will, in our groups, we will have everybody cordially working hand in hand, working as one. And hopefully we do not need to have some of our friends come in to save us. That would be very nice. And it's possible. It is possible. And if they come in, don't be frightened. None of you would be. Look at this alignment, gentlemen. I was asked the question about the pyramidal grid that came in last night. The first night you had the curtain of light, liquid luminosity of the gold and the white. That was very, very, very pleasant. So we're starting to get our own calling cards. Many of you saw that. Yesterday we had a pyramidal light grid that you can carry throughout. It's implanted within this group. The group became one. The group became one. So wherever you go throughout life, you carry the power of the group when you resonate with the group. You see this? So instead of the one individual, you become millions, for temporarily, very briefly, you touched into the fifth dimension. So it's magnified from that point of view. And it is all on the principle of resonance. Everyone in this room, no matter how lowly evolved they may feel about themselves, it all comes down to the principle of resonance, the cosmic law. The highest vibration in the room will carry the others. It was forever thus. And the inequality for the few would seem, well, we have to carry George. You don't carry anybody. Everything is one. So when the pyramidal light grid came in yesterday, wherever you focus at any time, at any place, even when you leave this planet, that pyramidal light grid that was formed with and for this group has that power. All you've got to do is focus on it. And you actually create that kind of multiplication. Do it individually, and you take at times, I don't know, there's 120, 30, 40 in this room, I don't know what there is. It magnifies. So that's what happened with that pyramid. Did you get a sense of it? Did some of you see it? Light grid came right down and encompassed the whole group. Mm-hmm. Well, I've been talking, you've all been worked on. Raise the energy, please start to breathe.